Why are we so tired all of the time? Is it because of our modern hustle culture? Is it our growing sense of anxiety? Is it our health? Is it our sleep habits? Well, today I wanted to react to one video in particular from former Vox journalist turned content creator Johnny Harris. He just posted this video about a month ago titled Why You're So Tired, and this thing has over 3 million views. Since he references my chrono quiz specifically, I thought it would be a fun idea to take a look more closely at some of the things he's talking about. And I just want to say, I think he brings up a lot of really great points, and I'm just going to expand on a few of them. All right, let's jump straight in.
Everyone says we should get 7 or 8 hours of sleep, but when you go to bed and when I go to bed is probably different. Back in the Johnny Caveman days, groups of humans couldn't leave their camp unattended at night. So we evolved to have different sleep times so that some of us could stay awake and guard the camp and others could sleep. And then we could switch off. Today what that looks like is that I go to bed at 10:30 and I wake up at 6:30. You may be a night owl and you want to go to bed at 1 in the morning, or you may want to go to bed at 9 a.m. These are called chronotypes, and there are roughly 4 of them. Everyone has a slightly different interpretation of what it means, but the fact is, we're not all the same when it comes to when we go to bed.
Obviously, this is one of my favorite parts of the video because Johnny's talking about and correctly identifying chronotypes. And what he's been able to do is give people the whole spectrum from my perspective, which is lion, bear, wolf, and dolphin. So number one, thanks for your support. And number two, I'm glad you started to realize that what time you go to bed and what time you wake up has a tremendous impact on how tired you feel during the day. So you're aces with me, Johnny.
And yet, we all live in a society that wants us to be the same. Our standard workday, 9 to 5, was constructed for like the average person, but you may not be that person. You have a job that requires you to be there at 9 a.m. and you're a night owl who wants to sleep until 10:30? Too bad. Capitalism says no. Researchers say that our chronotype is in our genes. Like this is like we are naturally coded to have an optimal time when we are sleeping.
This is an interesting part as well. And something that a lot of people don't realize is it's not a choice. As he correctly identifies, this is your genetics. And so it's so funny because he was like, capitalism wins. You know, they force you into these time zones that your body may or may not want. I get it. He's 100% correct here. It's definitely, there's a mismatch here, and it's something that you want to be aware of because it's definitely one of the things that's making you tired.
What's the solution here? Find out what your chronotype is. You probably already know what it is. Take this test online. I'll give you a QR code here. You can scan this, take a test. Maybe aligning your lifestyle with your chronotype could help you get sleep during the time when your sleep is most optimal, which will help make you feel less tired.
Clearly, I love his recommendation that people should get their chronotype, learn what it is. My system, another system, I don't really care. But if you go to Chrono Quiz, you can actually learn what your chronotype is fairly quickly and then move on to understand which categories you're in.
There's one more chemical we have to talk about for this daytime battle, and it's called adenosine. It is this very clever evolutionary feature of our brain. It's basically like a signal to our brains that tells us when it's time to rest. And it kind of signals to your brain that you're tired. It signals that you should feel sleepy and hopefully makes you go to sleep. But being industrious humans focused on progress, we found a substance that will block the buildup of adenosine. It's called caffeine. But guess what? The caffeine doesn't last forever. It eventually wears out. And all of this adenosine that had built up comes flooding into your brain like a megaphone saying, hey, you're really tired, and we're finally able to tell you. This is called the afternoon crash. My solution to this is like the greatest thing in the world, and it's called a coffee nap.
What he's describing here is something that I've been telling patients to do for 10 years. I call it a napa latte. It's where you take a cup of drip black coffee, throw in a few ice cubes merely to cool it down, slug it, and then take a 15-minute nap. This allows for the adenosine buildup that he's been talking about to reduce. Caffeine fits in perfectly. You're good to go for 4 hours. One thing I also want to be careful of, though, is you shouldn't be taking a coffee nap every day. If you're having to do that, that means that there could be something else going on and you could be masking a problem. It's good to use it in situations, but it's not something that you should be doing on a daily basis.
The other option is to drink your coffee a little bit later than you would. Don't drink it right as you wake up. Drink it between the hours of 9 and 11 a.m. so that it lasts until you're done with work and then you can have your coffee crash.
So here's something that he's talking about that I think is worth double tapping on, which is when you wake up in the morning, I would argue you want to hydrate before you caffeinate. So what you really want to do here is you want to drink about 16 to 20 ounces of water. Don't gulp. You want to sip it so that it gets absorbed. Remember, your body is kind of like a hard sponge. In the morning time, you want to sip about 16 to 20 ounces of water to allow that sponge to absorb it, the sponge being your body, and now you're in much better state. The reason that you want to wait for having caffeine about 90 minutes from when you wake up is your brain, when you wake up, has adrenaline and cortisol running around. Adding caffeine to that gives you no bang for your buck. However, that actually has a tendency to lower after about 90 minutes. When you add caffeine after 90 minutes, you actually get a bigger boost. So what he's talking about here, I agree with. I just wanted to give you some of the science behind it. And remember, you want to hydrate before you caffeinate.
So this is my list. It's not exhaustive.
So let's talk about his list of why we're so tired and what to do. Number one, he has correctly identified so many things. I think there is an evolutionary mismatch. We've seen this. I was actually talking about this with a friend earlier. There was a great study where they took 20 insomniacs. They brought them out into the woods. 2 weeks later, none of them had insomnia. Talk about an environmental mismatch, right? Caffeine, obviously, this is a biggie. And I think the only thing I would do in terms of double tapping a little bit more on caffeine is he brought up a point that I don't think people really understand, which is just because you stop feeling the caffeine doesn't mean that it's not still blocking your adenosine, right? And that's the thing that's going to make you tired at night. I couldn't agree more that when you're not sleeping within your chronotypical swim lane, that's going to be a factor, and obviously poor quality sleep. What to do? These are great ideas, some of which I have never had before, but I think I want to adapt some of them. Number one, I'm a big fan of napping, but remember, if you have insomnia, a siesta is probably a terrible idea because you'll reduce that adenosine that you're going to need that night. So again, don't nap if you're an insomniac, but it's okay, by the way, to take some time out. Like if you have insomnia, maybe you just go into a room and you spend 15 minutes of quiet time. There's nothing going on. You don't have to close your eyes just to be away from the stress and not making those decisions. Limiting decision making, I love this idea just from a stress perspective as well. Meal planning is one of those challenges that I definitely have, but I will be honest with you, that is probably the biggest argument that I have at my house. What's for dinner? So it would be great to not have that level of stress at all. Again, utilizing the coffee naps, I love this idea. Please don't do one every day. And of course, my big thing is I want you to be in sync with your chronotype and getting good quality sleep. So I actually couldn't agree more. And I think Johnny's taught me a few things that I'm going to start to institute with maybe some of my patients and also personally.
In short, it's not just because we look at our phones before bed that we're so tired. There's a lot more going on. And a lot of it has to do with life, modern life, and these brains that we have that were evolved for a very different time. I'm not going to dramatically change my life because of these findings, but I now at least have a list of a few things that I can tweak to maybe feel a little less tired.
Yeah, I really like his conclusion too, and I think he's smart in thinking about it this way, which is you don't have to necessarily change your universe, but if you understand some of the things that you're doing that are leading up to this level of fatigue, this level of tiredness, and you can curtail those or move those into a different direction, I think it's probably a worthwhile thing to consider. So I have to be honest with you, I really have a lot of respect for Johnny. I think he did a great job in leveling out the data and giving people some things to think about. So you get the Sweet Dreams Award, Johnny Harris. I'm Dr. Michael Breus, the Sleep Doctor, wishing you sweet dreams.